there were medical students who were being initiated. Medical schools right now are onboarding their medical students. That happens every July. And there's initiation. I don't want to say initiation ceremonies because that sounds like it's a cult or something, which I don't know, maybe that's an apropos analogy these days. But these medical students had their initiating event, and a professor was slated to speak to them. And this professor was not going to talk about abortion, but this professor was known to be openly pro-life, openly against abortion, openly advocate for the dignity of unborn people. And this is how these incoming medical students responded.
Good afternoon. I'm quite honored to have been chosen as this year's White Coat ceremony speaker. I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to everyone who is joining us for this special day.
They walked out. Just because this professor at their medical school is pro-life, they walked out at their White Coat ceremony. This is their first experience in medical school. These people are going to be future doctors. We're supposed to trust them with our health. And we're supposed to defer to their advice based on this training. And she wasn't even supposed to talk, this professor wasn't even supposed to talk about abortion. It wasn't like it was an anti-abortion rally where pro-abortion protesters said, no, we're not going to listen to this, or you're subjecting us to something that we totally disagree with, and we want to make sure that our voices are heard even though you're the one at the podium. No, she wasn't going to talk about abortion. And just because she was pro-life, this is how they reacted. And it struck me watching this that in the past 2 years, we have heard more than any time in my lifetime, we have heard the phrase, trust your doctor, trust the science, trust the experts. We're supposed to defer to someone else's expertise, the public health officials, or even your pediatrician, whether to vax your baby with the COVID vax. You're supposed to trust the doctors, but these are the doctors. Increasingly, the people that are becoming doctors in our country are people who want to abort unborn children, who want to trans kindergartners, and who make an effort to de-gun people. I don't know, a lot of parents listen to the show, and you guys know what I'm talking about, because the first time that you take your child to the pediatrician these days, and I'm talking about like 2 or 3 days after you bring your newborn baby home from the hospital, you take them to the pediatrician as your sort of onboarding visit. The first question they ask you is, do you have guns in the home? Why? Because the American Academy of Pediatrics forces pediatricians to ask that question, because the American Academy of Pediatrics is anti-gun. They actively advocate for government to infringe on our Second Amendment rights and to ban so-called assault weapons. And so they try to instill fear into brand new, vulnerable, sleep-deprived, fearful, recovering mothers recovering from childbirth who feel so vulnerable. How do I protect and care for my child? The pediatrician tells them, well, do you have guns in the home? Well, your child might die. This is who our doctors are, but trust our doctors, they tell us. Not to mention, of course, the fact that doctors in general are puppets of big pharma, because that's where they make their money. They just are looking for what to prescribe. But this, I don't want to get off on a tangent on my rant on that, but this is what doctors are increasingly. And we're seeing this redefinition of words in the medical field as well. And it's particularly scary when we see it in the medical field, because they're trying to redefine the phrase women's rights to include abortion. There is no constitutional right to abortion, or any human right, obviously, any inherent God-given right to murder your own child in the womb. But they're trying to redefine abortion to mean healthcare, when actually it's the antithesis of healthcare for a doctor to perform a procedure on a person that actively intentionally harms a person. They're trying to redefine the word baby to say, well, viability might be a baby, birth might be a baby. It's a fetus, meaning non-human before that. They're trying to redefine science. They're essentially redefining medicine. And this is a really big deal. This is not something small. This means that increasingly, as the students that we just saw walk out of this white coat ceremony become doctors, as they become the people that we take our children to see, that we see ourselves, that we take our parents to see, these people have ideological beliefs that are so extreme, so far out of the mainstream, so contradictory of what we hold dear and the objective truth that simply exists, whether they acknowledge it or not, that I don't know how it's going to be married. I don't know how you're going to marry people who are pro-life and who believe in science and know that transing a child leads that child to lifelong infertility and mental health issues and suicide. I don't know how you marry that with those of us who hold the values that we hold.